Hi everyone, this is Jessica Bradley Rushing and I am here with a recap of the Board of Selectmen's meeting from Tuesday, January 28th, 2020, which just ended. Our first order of business was to take a vote to open the special within the annual town meeting warrant effective February 3rd, 2020. So we voted to open that warrant. The special warrant within the annual town meeting warrant, I just want to explain for anybody who doesn't understand because it's a weird concept. The special within the annual warrant is for items that would be acted on immediately rather than money that would be funded at the end of fiscal year 20, the beginning of fiscal year 21. So most of the things that we vote on the regular warrant at town meeting are voted on to go into effect as of July 1st of that year. But items that go on the special within the annual warrant would go into effect immediately and money would be able to be dispersed immediately. So we did vote to approve that. The special within the annual will open on Monday, February 3rd, 2020 and will close on February 7th, 2020 at 4 p.m. The next item on our agenda was a vote to recommend the appointment of Michelle Campbell to the Council on Aging. She had been an alternate on the Council on Aging previously, so we did vote to approve her to the Council on Aging as a full member. And then we actually had a discussion to review 3 previously proposed articles for inclusion on the warrant, one of which we passed with no problem. It is an amendment to the police regulations for pertaining to the leash law, essentially. We voted on that one. It amends the language to update our bylaw to say that it will be in accordance with Mass General Law. Then we had a little bit of a discussion about the other 2 proposed amendments. There is an amendment to create an agricultural commission at town meeting. There was a little bit of a disagreement just because it seems like it does add a layer of bureaucracy to the town's government. If there is someone who has a livestock issue, normally that would go before the Board of Health. This agricultural commission would act essentially as a mediation group that would help resolve conflicts when people are not in agreement with Board of Health decisions. However, it does add, a layer of government, and we don't necessarily know that it is a necessity. So we tabled that one to vote on it next week after reaching out to the Board of Health to see if this is an amendment that they feel would be useful to them, if creating an agricultural commission would actually help the Board of Health. And then the other article would be related to that one. It would amend the existing town bylaw on the right to farm to include the agricultural commission in the resolution of disputes section. So obviously that one is tabled as well because they're 2 related amendments. From there, we moved on to the town manager's report. Next Tuesday at our Board of Selectmen meeting, the town manager has reported that we will be meeting with the Colonial Power Group about a municipal aggregation program for utilities. So basically, it would enable the town to potentially create a long-term agreement with National Grid that would freeze the supplier charges for a predetermined period of time, anywhere from 6 months to, I think, up to 3 years, and would lock in that supplier charge. It could potentially create cost savings for town residents, and the new rates would take effect in the fall of this year. So next week at our meeting, we will have a full presentation from Colonial Power on that, and I'll have more information about it then. I had a question for Ask the Selectmen about the status of the animal control officer. So right now, the animal control officer position had been posted in the fall, but it hadn't been filled yet. And I just asked what the status was because I've had a few people reach out with that question. Right now, Hanover and Pembroke are looking at a temporary solution to share an animal control officer between the 2 towns. Currently, we have a temp, or someone in that position on a temporary status, rather, who works out of Hanover, but eventually the idea would be that it would be called an animal control and care officer, would be based out of Pembroke because we have the shelter facilities, but we would have a full-time and a part-time person in order to close any gaps, and we would be moving the ACO to report to the police department instead of the town manager where they currently report. And the benefit of creating this sort of joint Hanover-Pembroke Animal Control Officer position is that it may enable the towns to get access to state funds because it is considered a regional position, which may enable us to update our shelter facilities and maybe either fix up or purchase a new animal control officer vehicle because the one we have is pretty old. So right now, there is someone in the position on a temporary status serving both the towns of Hanover and Pembroke. Then we moved on to new business. And I also brought something up during this portion of the meeting because I have been doing some research on budgeting best practices for municipalities. This is my first time on the Board of Selectmen during the budget process, and I just really wanted to be sure I understood what the process was meant to look like and what the timeline and the different sort of important steps in that process are meant to be. So in doing some of that research, I found a list in several different places actually, put out by the Division of Local Services under the Department of Revenue from the state that creates a list of recommendations for budgeting best practices. And these are also supported by the Massachusetts Municipal Association. So I wanted to bring them forward to the rest of the board because I think there are some improvements we could make to our existing budget process. We also have some town bylaws that lay out a capital planning process with some timelines and dates that we haven't really, I don't think, been adhering to in our budget process, at least this year, that I think should probably be reviewed. In 2013, the Department of Revenue did a financial management review of the town of Pembroke, and one of the things that they suggested as a result of that study was that we do a comprehensive review of our bylaws, reorder them because right now they are laid out chronologically instead of categorically, and create a codified budget process that we create a bylaw that outlines what that process is meant to look like, who the important and relevant parties are that participate in that process, how they participate, and when specific parts of the budget process are meant to be completed by. So I wanted to bring all this information forward to the board so that we could maybe take a look at the way that we are doing our current budget process and see what improvements we could make in order to ensure that the budget process that the town is following is in keeping with the best practices as recommended by the state, by the Mass Municipal Association, and is adhering to our own town bylaws. So it was a one-page list of information that I had found out through this research that I did that I sent along to the other members of the board and the town manager. I sent it out this afternoon, so I'm sure the rest of the board didn't really have enough time to review it to be able to get into an in-depth conversation, but that's why I wanted to get it out there now. This is something that I'm hoping we will be talking about going forward. And one of the things that did come out of it was that the chairman, Mr. Bolter, has suggested that we add an agenda item to our meetings going forward to take a look at some of the bylaws and look at ways that they could be amended and updated in order to ensure that we are doing our part as the policymaking board in this town to ensure that those bylaws are accurate and relevant and timely. So that was the discussion that we had at the end of the meeting, and I think that it will be something that we will be discussing going forward because based on the questions and responses that we had in our discussion tonight, I think there's some more research that I will be doing to take a look at some other things that need to be discussed as part of this budget process. So we will be having a meeting next week, and during that meeting, as the town manager said, we will be meeting with the Colonial Power Organization. We will also be meeting next week with the school committee on Monday night to discuss the budget for fiscal year 21 with the school committee. So as always, if anyone has any questions, please feel free to reach out to me, and I hope you have a good week. Thanks very much. Bye-bye.